Transfer Manager. So it's a pleasure to meet you. I've seen some faces here and some new faces, so welcome to all. And welcome to the people on the live stream as well. So good to have you. It's a good representation today. As you probably know, the Innovate UK, KTN, exists purely to connect innovators with new partners, new opportunities, and accelerate those ambitious ideas that you guys have. So that's our sole purpose. We do that through our contacts and networks, working alongside governments, and assisting the SMEs with events like this to access funding, develop new opportunities, and develop guidance and contacts and supports. Very quickly, just on a broad strokes, we help you connect, so we do engage and find those contacts and partnerships that you guys need. We have a broad network to reach out to. We provide that awareness and dissemination of private and public funding that is available for you. We aim to influence and inform policy and strategy, as well as supporting you in your business processes. And ultimately, yes, we help you navigate the innovation landscape, extend those to wider stakeholders, and curate a bunch of innovation resources that you can draw upon. Just a little reminder, if you have not used or signed up for Meeting Mojo, this is a really good tool for you guys to engage face-to-face directly with people who have registered here today. There's a QR code. You can scan it quickly and go through the registration process. In terms of housekeeping here at the National Digital Exploitation Centre, there are no fire drills planned today, so if we hear a fire alarm, the assembly point is just diagonally across the car park out there. We have a very packed agenda today, so we're going to be pretty swift through the agenda. Very quickly, CCAV and Innovate UK are going to explain the scope of the project, the competition, give you some insights into the competition, and there will be a chance for some questions and answers at that point. We will then give you an overview of the process that is required for the application, and again we'll have a bit of a question and answers stage. Unfortunately, the person who was going to present is not available today, so we might need to take some of those questions away with us and answer them afterwards. Yeah. We'll break for a coffee break and networking about 2:30. I expect it'll be around that time. And then our colleagues at Zenzic and Innovate UK Edge will give us an overview of how they can support the CAM innovators during this competition. And finally, but more importantly, is we'll also have the chance for about 20 companies to pitch, give us a 2-minute pitch on what their offer is, what the projects and ideas that they have that could develop into a positive consortia forming initiative. So 2 minutes each, 20 people, that's a lot of people, and I need you to help me be on track and on time, yeah? We are aiming to close for 4 o'clock, sorry. 4 o'clock. Because I'm conscious some people need to catch the 4:30 train, so I won't hold it against you if you need to disappear at 4, but if it might overrun a little bit. But we're going to aim for 4, okay? Thank you. So yes, without further ado, I would like to bring Michael Talbot in to give us an intro on the competition. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this very exciting day. I think those who've been following CCAV or working with CCAV over the years recognize this is the fun part of our job. This is where we get to sort of send that challenge out to industry and academia and to local government to come up with their best ideas, and for us in government to be able to support and accelerate, de-risk those investments and prospects. I'm very quickly going to run through A bit about the background of the program, a bit of background of CCAV. I think you all know us by now, but some of you will have seen these slides before. But first, also wanted to thank the National Digital Exploitation Centre for hosting us today. It's great to come here and see the facility. I think I've had a number of meetings virtually, as we all have done over recent months and years, but it's great to see it firsthand, and also to see so many people that I haven't seen for a while as well. Rolling on. So I think what we're seeing in the sector is an increasing convergence of the automated, electric, connected technology development paths, and I think the government's requirement towards net zero and things like that are really sort of bringing that forward, and I think we're starting to see those interests and opportunities starting to arrive here in the UK, and we've got a really exciting basket of projects. We're not starting from a standing start here in the UK, obviously, but we're building on lots of great projects involving many of you assembled here this morning, or this afternoon now, sorry, I've been traveling for a while. So where's this got us to? So when we set up CCAV back in 2015, there was a perception that we were trailing with these technologies, that the UK was behind some of the other big markets. So CCAV was set up between the Department for Business and the Department for Transport. We've got colleagues from both sides of the House here today, so we've got a good representation from the CCAV team. But over the course of the past few years, we've moved into quite a good position, I think, now. I think the KPMG Autonomous Vehicles Readiness Index is quite a good measure. There's always challenges with methodologies, but I think from people I talk to, this is one of the ones that they typically will point to as the sort of global index that people will pay attention to. And I think cybersecurity, if we're talking about that, where better could we be placed than we are today to talk about UK strength in cybersecurity, and we see some various colleagues who have different expertise as well within that profession. So how do we get here? Part of what we've done is historically we built on the sort of three pillars of regulation, going back to the code of practice and things like that, the R&D program, and the CAM Testbed UK program. We won't go into the detail there. I think many of you will be familiar with this, and if we've got plenty of time for questions and discussion later on. And on the regulatory side, obviously, we've just had earlier this year, the Law Commission's 4-year review, their final report come in January, and in the not so distant future, the government's response will be forthcoming on that. And there was obviously something like 75 recommendations, so there's quite a lot for CCAV to think about within that. And I think part of that is really that investment with industry over the past 6-7 years around having 90 projects, around £250 million of government investment matched up to around £440 million. I think that the numbers are quite hard to pin down, but broadly speaking, that number works for us. And that's a pretty chunky bit of investment for us to build this next program on. And some of those projects will continue to run. So we've got CAV Forth, I think Jim's here, so we've got CAV Forth running in Scotland later this year. So I think there's some great projects still to come. And as I was saying, we've got the testing infrastructure spread out across the sort of testing corridor between Birmingham and London, and those are most of those facilities now open, all of them revenue generating, and some really exciting prospects from there. This is probably telling you things you already know, but it's probably always worth sort of setting that context of where we've come from to, I think, remind us where we're now headed. Because I think this is one of the things that we've been doing within government, is reminding people that actually the program we're doing now is actually building on a really important creation of an ecosystem of companies, and bringing collaborative effort across sectors together, which has been really difficult but really valuable. So I think that's been a really powerful thing we've been able to demonstrate and to talk to our political masters and our civil servant seniors about as we make the case for the program we've now been able to launch. So what's next? So Yesterday, we were down in Woolwich with the Smart Mobility Living Lab, launching alongside the Nissan Serve City project, which we've got a number of other consortia partners in there, with Lord Grimstone, and he announced this program, a £40 million collaborative R&D program for deployments. And we'll be hearing more. That's why you're all here. So that's what we'll be. If this is what you expected to hear about, we may have to take a pause and direct you to the train station. But this is it's been really exciting. It's been a really long road for the team and for many of you who contributed to the call for evidence that has helped shape this and helped us secure this funding. So we thank all of you for your hard work and your advice and support and occasional robust challenge to help us get to this point. So in terms of what we've been thinking about next, part of that's been informed by the Zenzic roadmap out to 2030. So trying to understand where we are in the development of these technologies, where the interdependencies lie across the various swim lanes, as we talked about in the past, across infrastructure for vehicle technologies, infrastructure technologies, services, legislation, social behaviors, those sorts of things. But I think the powerful thing that's come from that for this program is the transitional period between about 2024, 2026, which the roadmap identified as being the time when R&D projects would start to give way to commercial deployments. And I think this is where this program is now aiming, is to have those commercializable pilot schemes that then can scale out at greater scale to proper commercial value. And what are we doing next? We've got sort of three, as we do things in threes in CCAV. So the big parts of the program on the right is this program. The commercialization program, we'll be saying more later about some of the supply chain elements, and that will be something that we'll be talking about for later in the year. We've got the primary legislation that's been announced through the Queen's speech, and that's around supporting these new technologies onto the roads. Sorry, it's a very tiny slide. We're going to elaborate on these things in discussion. But there's also the CAV pass element on the left there, where we're looking at that's a process of moving through the approvals and authorizations aspect, which is extremely challenging. But I think the interest and commitment is for us in CCAV to work with you as projects, as you're developing your proposals, to understand what it is that you require from regulation, when you require it, and then working out how that can be achieved on a timescale that works for us. I don't think I'm going to go into any more detail. Who am I handing over to now? Is it to Richard? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks you to everybody for coming today and for being online. So my name's Richard Morris. I'm the Innovation Lead for Connected and Autonomous Vehicles at Innovate UK. And I'm going to take you through the scope. And then after I do this and go through the wording of what the scope says, David's going to be talking a little bit about some of these specific aspects and going into a bit more detail on why. So we'll be doing the questions after we've both done our presentations. So the competition is made up of two strands. The first strand is looking at the deployments, which Michael has already talked about, and the second strand is looking at mass transit opportunities. The two are quite different in terms of what we're expecting from them, and you'll need to make sure that you are putting in for the right competition strand. Because we can't move you between strands. So please, when you apply, make sure you're selecting the right strand. They exist as two separate competitions on the Innovate UK IFS system. There are links there, and those are the front pages for the two competitions on the website. And in terms of this presentation, I'm going to take you through strand 1 first, the competition outline, the eligibility, the funding levels, the scope, what's out of scope, and the timings. And I'll take you through strand 2 similarly, and then after that I'll talk about some of the common aspects between the two. So talking about strand 1 at first. I'm going to have to whistle through this because we don't have a lot of time, I'm afraid. So Strand 1 is for up to 40 million in total to fund collaborative industrial research and experimental development projects in this particular strand. So the projects must develop a new automated passenger or goods service to the point of commercial deployment. So we're expecting to fund somewhere between 5 and 8 high-quality projects that use UK technologies to provide commercial CAM services. So grant funding is available for up to 50% of the eligible costs. And those grants can be between £500,000 and £9 million per project. Projects will need to be complete by the end of the CSR period, which is the 31st of March 2025. And for this strand, there'll be a 2-stage application process. The first stage will be written, and then there'll be an interview stage. In terms of eligibility, you must start the projects by the 1st of March next year, and you must finish by the 31st of March in 2025. All the project work must be carried out in the UK, and you must intend to exploit all the results in or from the UK. And all projects will have to work together with CCAV and DFT to ensure compatibility with both the current legislation and future regulatory requirements. If you want to lead a project, the lead organisation must be either a registered UK business, and that can be of any size, or it can be a public sector organisation such as a local authority or a transport authority. And you have to collaborate with at least 2 other registered UK organisations. So, just for clarity, academic institutions and research organisations, or RTOs, can't lead, I'm afraid. Not in this strand. In terms of the project team, to collaborate with the lead, your organisation can be, or must be one of the following: either a UK registered business, academic institution, charity, not-for-profit organisation, public sector organisation, or RTO. So the lead and at least 2 other organisations must claim funding by entering their costs during the application on the IFS system. Any subcontractors must be UK-based, with some very limited exceptions, and the combined costs must not exceed 20% of the total project costs. In terms of the funding levels, the amount of funding that you can get will depend on what type of project it is, whether it's industrial research or experimental development. So if you're looking at industrial research, then you can claim either up to 70% if you're a small business, 60% if you're a medium, or 50% if you're a large. For experimental development projects, which are by definition closer to market, you can get funding of up to 45%, 35% and 25% respectively for smalls, micros, mediums and large. If you're not sure which category you fall into in terms of industrial research or experimental development, on the Innovate UK website, under the general guidance, it gives you an explanation as to what the differences are. And if you still have queries after that, which you might have, let's be honest, then I'll direct you to our customer support services, and then they will effectively tell you and give you some advice as to which you should be applying for. Organisations which are not undertaking economic activity, such as local authorities or academic institutions, research organisations, they can participate up to a total of 30% of the total eligible project costs. And if your consortium is containing more than one of those, then it's the total, it is the maximum that's shared between them. And of that 30%, if you're an academic institution and just registered, then you get up to 80% of your full economic costs. Otherwise, it would be 100% for everybody else. However, the grant funding available is up to a maximum of 50% for the entire project. So that will significantly affect how many fully research organisations you might want to have in, because obviously that means that everybody else has to take a small cut. So there's a balancing act to be played there. You'll also need to pay a levy to Zenzic for the services that Zenzic provides. Mark's going to be talking later about what those services are, and that will be 3% of the total grant which is offered to the project. It's not 3% of the grant claimed, it's 3% of what is offered. Everybody has to pay, including academic partners. It's not an eligible cost, you can't claim for it, and it is a condition of your grant that you pay that to Zenzic. It's paid by the lead partner. Moving on to the fun bit, the scope. So your project must develop a new automated passenger or goods service to the point of commercial deployment. If you're developing a passenger service, then your project must improve on and integrate into existing transport systems. It must enhance how the public move and encourage, rather than discourage, active transport and public journeys, wherever appropriate. If your project uses the public roads, it must comply with the Department for Transport Code of Practice on automated vehicle trialling, and it must also obviously comply with the relevant standards for safety and security. You must work with DFT and its agencies to audit your safety and security cases before on-road trials or service deployments begin. And I think David's going to talk a little bit more about how VCA might do that later on. You must also explain how your service could be improved or expanded in the future as technology develops or as legislation changes, or as we expect it to change. So in line with government's decarbonisation goals, any vehicle procurement costs, whether capital or otherwise, such as vehicle leasing, those will only be eligible for zero-emission vehicles. So if you already have ICE vehicles, you can use those, because obviously you're not going to be paying capital again. But if you're looking for new vehicles, then they have to be zero emission if you want them to be eligible costs for claiming. In terms of the themes, there are effectively 4 themes, but you can mix across and between the themes. So that is logistics services in public spaces, to which the public have access, logistics services in private spaces, to which the public don't have access, and likewise for passenger services in public spaces or in areas where the public don't have access. So you can have a project which does 2 or more of those, but those are the areas we're expecting you to fall into. Most important point at the bottom, so I'm going to emphasize this. Big red bold. You have to ensure that you will comply with all the legal requirements in your chosen deployment areas, and it's your responsibility to take legal advice in this matter. That's really important. What is out of scope? Well, for Strand 1, we're not funding any projects that are early stage research into automated driving systems, or which include testing or deployment of drones, or other aircraft, or waterborne craft, or rail vehicles. And then there are the usual caveats about export performance and domestic inputs usage. So those are all out of scope. In terms of the dates, as Michael said, the announcement was made yesterday. We're all here today at the briefing event. That's nice. The deadline for queries of whether a project is within scope or out of scope is the 29th of June. So that's 3 weeks before the 3 weeks before the cut-off and the competition close. So the competition closes on the 20th of July, 11 o'clock sharp in the morning. Not 1 minute past, just 11 o'clock. So please don't leave it too late. If you are invited to interview, you will get that invitation, we're hoping or expecting on the 19th of September, with those interviews happening in Swindon or thereabouts, week commencing the 20th of October. We're expecting the applicants to be notified on the 21st of October, and all projects will need to start by the 1st of March, and as we said before, finish by the 31st of March 2025. Moving on to Strand 2, which is the mass transit strand. So CCAV have allocated £1.5 million, or up to £1.5 million for feasibility studies in this strand. And this is for a project which must develop plans for the use of connected or automated mobility as a mass transit solution. So we're expected to fund between 7 and 10 high-quality projects that could deliver a significantly more cost-effective and low-carbon solution than traditional public transport options. The grant funding available for the project costs and grants must be between £50,000 and £200,000. Projects must be complete by the 30th of November 2023. And this particular strand is a single-stage application process. It's written only. These projects must start by the 1st of January next year, and as we said, must finish by the 30th of November. Again, all project work must be carried out in the UK, and the results must be exploited in the UK. Not from the UK, obviously, because these services will be in the UK, we hope. And likewise, you must also work again with CCAV and the DFT to ensure that there is compatibility with relevant current and future regulation. For this, to lead any of these projects, you need to be either a UK business of any size. You can be a UK research organisation or research and technology organisation, or you can be a public sector organisation, and you must collaborate with at least one other UK registered organisation. So it's a little bit different from Strand 1. To be in the project team, again, you can be a business of any size, an academic institution, a charity, a not-for-profit, public sector organisation, or an RTO. However, your project team must include, either as a lead or as a grant claiming partner, a local or regional authority or local or regional transport authority, and a connected and automated mobility technology provider or infrastructure provider. So the lead, together with at least one other organisation, must claim their funding by entering the cost during the application. Any subcontractors, again, must be UK-based, with some very limited exceptions, and their combined costs must not exceed 30% of the total project costs. For the industrial partners, the funding rates are again 70% for a micro or small, 60% for a medium, and 50% for a large organisation. For those organisations undertaking non-economic activity, the total for the project, or total share that you can have of the total eligible costs is 30%. And again, if your consortium contains more than one of these organisations undertaking non-economic activity, this maximum is shared between them. And again, of that 30%, you can get 80% of your full economic costs if you're JES registered, otherwise it's 100%. So, scope. Your project must identify a new application for CAM as a mass transit solution on a segregated route, and it must quantify the real life potential of a suitable solution. Your proposed automated vehicle services must be on a physically segregated infrastructure routes that are not open to public access, whether for vehicles, pedestrians, cyclists, or anybody else. So this might include tracks or disused railway lines or disused railway routes. So your proposal must consider the utilisation of new CAM technologies for innovative mass transit services on segregated infrastructure, particularly where that can be either on new or dedicated or disused infrastructure, or infrastructure that would otherwise require a significant upgrade. In reality, what we're looking for is for alternatives to rail or light rail, because that's very expensive to install. So we're looking at what is possible without having to lay tracks. I think that's probably a reasonable summary. Is that fair, Ben? We're expecting you to propose the design and delivery and the operational cases for the introduction of the service on a specific UK route currently underserved by public transport, including how it could be practically delivered and operated as part of an integrated public transport network. So your proposal must solve real-life transport problems and focus on areas and routes in the UK that are currently underserved by public transport. You need to set out why an automated vehicle service would provide a better outcome than a traditional mass transit mode, for example, heavy rail, light rail, tram, bus, guided busway. And it must also consider how a service could be improved or expanded in the future, for example, as the technology develops or as legislation changes. So your project must also submit an interim report by the 1st of May 2023 and a final report by the 30th of November 2023. So you can consider the use of connected autonomous mobility technologies on new infrastructure, on disused infrastructure, or infrastructure that requires costly upgrades, for example, railway lines. And it can be either in a rural, semi-rural, or in urban environment. And I think we're probably looking for a selection across the patch. Your project must consider all 12 of the aspects listed in the theme section of the scope. I'm not going to go through them all now because it'll take forever, but you can read them for yourself, and you need to consider all of those. And again, you must ensure that you'll comply with all legal requirements. There's no point in suggesting something which is clearly going to be illegal or which is impractical. And it's your responsibility to make sure that it is going to be legal. What is out of scope? We're not funding any industrial research or experimental development projects, or anything that relies on the use of automated vehicles on public roads. We're not funding projects which propose automated vehicle technology on rail vehicles, or, and again, not on aircraft, waterborne craft, etc. Dates. Again, similar sort of dates. We're expecting the competition will close on the 20th of July. And we'll have the 29th of June as being the deadline for out-of-scope queries. So applicants we expect to be notified by the 30th of September, and projects will start 1st of January 2023. They must start by then, and they must finish by the 30th of November next year as well. So there are a few common aspects between the two strands, which I'd like to draw out. One of them is new. You probably haven't seen it before. Under the current restrictions, the competition will not fund any procurement, commercial business development or supply chain activity with any Russian entity, either as a lead, as a partner, or as a subcontractor. So this includes any goods or services originating from a Russian source, for obvious reasons, I think. In terms of subsidy and state aid, so this competition provides funding in line with the UK's obligations and commitments to subsidy control. And for further information, there are links within the scope, so you can go and have a look at the detail of that. So now the EU state aid rules only apply in very limited circumstances, so you need to check the links in the scope. In reality, it tends to be those which are associated with Northern Ireland or which are based in Northern Ireland. But I think those who are likely to be in that case should be aware of that. Innovate UK is also unable to award organisations that are considered to be in financial difficulty. So we will conduct financial viability and eligibility tests to confirm that this is not the case during following the application process. And in the video a little bit later on, my colleague Rachel will explain a little bit more about that. There are a few other common aspects. Where appropriate, your project must align with the 9 principles of the Future of Mobility Urban Strategy. That's quite important, so we expect you to reference that in your applications. The technical terminology in your application must comply with the meanings as per the BSI Flex 1890 version 4. The reason for that is because people often use the same terminology to mean different things. So if you use the terminology, we will assume that it means what it says in the BSI standard. We'll fund a variety of projects across the competition strands and themes of different applications in different geographies and different operating design domains or operational domains. We call this a portfolio approach. So we will not necessarily pick the best projects which score the highest scores if they're all doing the same thing. We want to see an appropriate degree of variety. And successful project applications must support and engage with the new impact and evaluation framework which Innovate UK is rolling out on behalf of its managed programmes, of which CCAV have specified what they want to see. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. Over to David.
Hello, good afternoon. I'll offer my thanks again for travelling out. It's great to see so many regular faces, but new faces as well. So I've got about 25 minutes. I've got a few slides and we've got the Q&A. I will go rapidly through the slides and we can do a bit of a Q&A, see if you can stump us. So, a lot of this has already been alluded to by Michael and Richard, but the areas that we're interested in are logistics and passenger services, and we've got a separate line in there for private land because we know that gives some different operating environment than if we were doing public. So just think primarily about logistics and passengers, how do we improve those services, and then we can talk about whether they're in public or private spaces. Richard mentioned the 9 principles from the Future Mobility Urban Strategy. They're quite long sentences, so I distilled them into the 9 points there. I also think 9 isn't really a prioritised list, so I turned them into, for each of those areas, here are the 3 priorities, the way I see it. And the key aspects there. Ignore the low speed on logistics. That was something I should have deleted. But safety, security, and accessibility by design. This is a number 1 key. We want to improve transport for everybody. You need to be thinking about those things from the get-go. For logistics services, we're looking at improving efficiency and fulfilling a logistics need. We don't want surplus vehicles on the road. We want to enhance those services. And we're looking at how the market improves from those logistics services. There needs to be a use for these deployments. Passenger side, again, safe, secure, and accessible by design. Must improve and integrate into existing transport systems while bringing benefit across the diversity, geographic, social, and economic sections of the UK. As Richard has said, if 9 projects come and say we want to deploy in London, you're all not going to get funded. So think about where you're deploying, what benefit you are bringing to the UK, and where that's best employed. And as Richard also said, active and mass travel must remain the best options where appropriate. Encourage people out of their cars, don't encourage people off of their bicycles. How do we do that best? The private land one is up there because it's got a slightly different driver. It's got a slightly different customer. The customer's more likely to be a business, and the marketplace that comes from this is, again, slightly different. It's not going to be end user, public, consumer-led. It's going to be business-led. So there's a slight difference on that one. But the key takeaway is we're looking safe, secure, and accessible by design. Right. I've got a few slides where I'm just talking about those options. So I kept private land as a separate slide because this is one of those opportunities where the ODD may be, and I am saying maybe more simple than the public road spaces. You are able to control who's there. The public do not have unfettered access. So you might have a private road, but if the public can access it, it's not private space, it's public space. So we're looking for controlled access points. So unfortunately, university campuses are probably public spaces because you've got the general public just tipping around. So things are about depot operations, airside operations, and those controlled campuses. Amazon, big campuses like that, for example. And we've got some guidance, and I've got a slide at the back for some of the areas you should probably look for that legal understanding of what you can and can't do in private land. We've mentioned logistics services. I've got snazzy pictures of low-speed logistics, but we are open to low-speed logistics. If you have a heavy goods vehicle idea, you're welcome to that. And just because I have a picture, it is not my intent to support that business. They're just nice pictures. So smaller, slower speed logistics operations are a first opportunity. We are seeing lots of interest globally in how you do those local deliveries and how do they work. So there is an opportunity here, and it pushes us in a couple of places. They tend to be novel vehicles. They tend to be those that don't have a space for a human. So how do we do that? How do we make sure those vehicles are road safe, road legal, and we can push forward? It raises questions about where your safety driver is, what is a remote driver, all things we need to come together to solve over the next period. So we're really interested in this space. The interaction with vulnerable road users is going to be key in this space. So a really good option for us to learn as we go on this area. But as I say, all logistics services is open. If you've got hub-to-hub HGV, we're interested. On the passenger services side, again, low speed is kind of leading the way. both here in the UK and globally, but we do have CAV 4 hitting the road this year, 50 mile an hour on the motorway, hopefully, Jim. So it'd be a backward step for us to say, actually, no, 20 mile an hour only. So we're open to all passenger services here. I'm not going to repeat what I've just said about the drive for how these interact in those public spaces, but really key there that we're interested in the variety of options and the variety of solutions there to help people move more effectively and more efficiently. Actually, I'm going to go back to that one. For both of these pieces of work, in the low-speed space, we have been working with IVS around low-speed autonomous driving system type approval, so there are some structures that will be coming out over the next period of time which we'll be looking to test and looking to push forward. So hitting the novel vehicle and the lower speed, there'll be some options there. Now, I said I was going to run through this, and that was what I've done. So we've done some work looking at the legal considerations for trials and deployments on private land. This is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. This is some of the information that you should be considering as you look at how do you deploy in those private spaces. The second point is the one that I made. Private land can be publicly accessible or a public place. Therefore, it's not so simple just to say, we own this road, we don't have to consider the public. It doesn't quite work like that. But there is some guidance there, and Ben and I have commissioned some work, and we can give you some further answers if you approach us. But they were my 5 slides. So we're interested in passenger services, logistics services, in public and private spaces, 4 to 8 really good projects, up to £9 million of funding, £40 million total, and the competition opened yesterday. So stop wasting time listening to me. So happy to take Q&A. As I say, we've got about 20 minutes for Q&A. If we go fast, it means you'll all make your trains later.
Just a quick one. Are all the slides going to be made available?
Yes, there is nothing in there that can't be. Simple. Peter.
Why do you have a staggered start between the 2 projects? Because in my mind it's 12 weeks, like a really efficient 180 working shifts. So, you know, is there an earlier start for the deployment possible? Or is it due to fiscal year or the grant process? Or
We are assuming that if we can give you who's funded in October, very quick people, if your consortium's already built, could probably start in January, and that would be fine. If you've built a new consortium, we're assuming you might take a little bit longer, so we're saying you have to start by March. That gives you 2 years. That's a lot of work to deliver in 2 years. If you can start quicker, we will support you starting quicker.
That's based on the grant funding agreement. That process.
Exactly.
Can take
It can be painful.
Exactly.
Yeah. And with our 50% cap, so you're going to have to do some jiggling because not all of you are going to take the headline rates that we can fund you. You're going to take an up to. Okay.
From Transport for Wales. On the passenger one, you mentioned about integration with the transport system.
Yeah.
What level of integration are you expecting with the vehicle that turns up at a train station in the parts outside, or are you looking at kind of integrated journey planning and ticketing as the whole kind of customer offer? Can you comment on that?
You're going to score higher on the latter answer than the former answer. So that integration of how are you getting people to the train station at the right time for the right train, how are you linking up would really be. Now, CCAV's primary focus is on the automation. We want the vehicles to work, but there's lots of adjacents there on how we improve demand responsive travel, knowing when and where you can travel to, your ticketing options. So bringing all of those into those projects mean you are more likely to be commercially viable at the end of that. So yeah, it should, I'm being recorded, I hate being recorded. It should really be that kind of integration aspect. It's not a novelty, it's something that somebody can use to commute to work or to home or wherever, if you're talking passenger services.
Yeah, quick one. So you talked about effectively replacing as some sort of automated service. We've obviously got trams that coexist with cars on
Yeah.
shared. Is there any flexibility in segregation
Yep. Ben?
Hi everyone, I'm Head of Commercialisation at CCAV and I'm looking after the feasibility study stuff. The reason why we're looking at segregated is because of regulation. So effectively, if you're on segregated routes, you're not beholden to the same public road use as well. So, and just to say, it's not replacing rail, this is an alternative mass transit solution, just so everyone's aware. But yes, that's the reason why.
So if in their pitch they can cover that element of segregation and the element of change, does that work, Ben? So if in their feasibility study pitch they can cover how they're covering the danger, not the danger, the difference between segregated and non-segregated, that would be fine, or we're saying must be segregated?
Must be segregated.
Must be segregated. Thank you. Peter?
So you mentioned in your first column there the safe and secure or whatever it was. So I take it that here you're expecting that people will pay attention to a lot of work that we did on resilience and security and earlier things as a consideration in being able to, and that will be something that will count points. It's still not a distinct thing nowadays, but it's really part of actually making these services real.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. I mean, for any viable bid, there's got to be a clear focus on that safety and security, resilience element, accessibility as well. But yes, we would be surprised if there weren't cyber partnerships coming out of these projects to really prove out your case. Because, yeah, we're looking for... So I've got a timeline in my head for this where the projects will be really hitting the road winter 23, 24 and running for a year. That gives us that real opportunity to see if these deployments are viable, to prove out that business case, to prove out that commercialization. If you're pitching to start January 2025 and run for 3 months, how are you proving out your business case? What are you doing? And if you're going to be running for that length of time, it needs to be resilient. It needs to be not falling over every couple of months and being paused and recontinuing. So we are really putting the challenge out on these ones.
This is probably a detailed question which you may want to take offline. Richard Barrington, 5G Connected Autonomous Logistics up at Nissan. You talk about only investing in carbon zero vehicles.
Yes.
The cost of that in mainstream logistics are several £100,000. Would you be prepared to accept as buying a diesel vehicle and converting it to an electric vehicle, which is what we've done so far on the project?
Very good question, and we probably do have to take that offline.
I thought that.
And I mean, my gut answer would be you'd have to justify it to myself and Richard and some others about why it works out better than paying for a brand new electric versus that conversion.
3 times the cost.
Okay, we can have that conversation before the 19th of June.
Yes, that's what yeah.
Sounds about right. Cool. I didn't expect a question from my boss.
I think that raises a really good point. I think just generally speaking, if there's any ideas that you've got with your project development as you're coming together and having these conversations, if there's anything that doesn't seem to fit with what we've been setting out now, do come and talk to us as soon as possible. These things are not hard and fast rules. You may remember years back for the Testbed UK bit, there was the infamous box that we drew around things. It was a porous box. So there are requirements that we have, policy requirements that we need to achieve because of the requirements put to us by Lord Grimstone and Treasury for securing this funding. But we are interested in the best ideas. So I think there are opportunities for us to see how we can work with ideas as they come through.
Cool, thank you.
From online, is this just for purely automated mobility or are connected solutions also in scope?
Connected solutions are in scope, and we would expect to see connectivity as part of those adjacent benefits to that connected and automated mobility service. I am definitely a proponent of those connected, bringing some of those efficiency benefits. So if it was connected alone, probably not, come and talk to us, but a connected and automated system is the desired solution.
Brilliant. And another one, would you fund, very similar question, connected solutions, e.g. an acronym I don't know, GLOSA, where they assess both EV and traditional vehicles?
It's a good question, and it kind of sits outside of our remit. So traditionally, CCAV doesn't invest in infrastructure alone. So if you're GLOSA, which is green light, something, 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 it's traffic light timing. If GLOSA was a key element of how you were delivering your service, then I guess you'd have to talk to the local authority about the installation of that and how that works. But we wouldn't fund just a GLOSA installation. I can't remember what the rest of GLOSA stands for. Cool. Ruth.
I was going to say for the closer stuff, I think that DFT ITS team might be coming up with something to be announced later this year, possibly.
Interesting. Not my embargo to breach.
But there's lots of stuff happening out closer anyway.
Yeah.
It's virtually there.
Cool.
Does Connect and Automated Plant align with any of this so far? Not necessarily on private land.
Not necessarily on private land. That's a good question. So I have started doing a bit of work with DFT, Connect and Automated Plant team. We're aligning some of the standards work that we've done already and seeing how that benefits them. I think if you've got a CAP, Connected Automated Plant idea, come and talk to us. It's not exactly fitted where we think we want to go over the next couple of years, but we're open. And it'll be the same for mining and construction. If you've got a good idea that you think also has adjacent benefits into the mainstream, no offence to those people, come and talk to us. Cool. Any other questions?
With regards to the feasibility studies, you said no rail. Does that just mean traditional rail, or are you open to more novel rail techniques, like those seeds and stuff, just suspended guideways, or those that are within a vacuum tube but still have a guide rail of sports, just define rail?
Ben. I think talk to us, right? But basically the guidance is that we didn't want essentially the district light railway, right? We didn't want something like very light railway, which is effectively totally different infrastructure. If the vehicle, the vehicle had to run at some point on tarmac or whatever surface you want to use, which is basically paved road, if it at some point joins onto something that looks a bit like rail, let's talk about that. But effectively, what I really didn't want to do was essentially fund the rail sector to basically do another DLR.
Okay. So you can't automate a train, but you can come talk to us if there's rail tracks involved at some point in the offer. There was a question just there.
I'm wondering for the feasibility study, which TRL level you are funding or you are considering?
So, good question. So, it's a proposal of how you would solve the problem in the future and make sure that local authorities, transport fours in the future can look at it and go, oh yeah, tram's going to cost us this much, CAM could cost us this much. So it doesn't need to be 7, 8, 9, but it probably doesn't want to be onesies and twosies. So somewhere mid to high, yeah.
So probably some extra context that's worth seeing in the feasibility studies. The DFT is interested in this in general, right? But more work needs to go into it. So what I would like to see on it is essentially a technology that we are pretty sure is ready to go. Like, there's no point basically saying this technology is 5, 10 years away, because that's not then a viable transport solution in the near to medium term. What we want here is to really scrutinise what is actually possible on segregated routes as a mass transit solution. That's where government is interested in, because basically understanding, okay, well, can we get basically another tool in our pocket to deliver better journeys for people across the UK? Does that answer the question? So yeah, autonomy, obviously, first and foremost, connectivity, definitely as well. I think, again, the point is, how do we basically make sure that it's a transport system that works for people, most transport systems right now are connected. You know, how is it on demand? How does it connect to things like, you know, other providers are available, but City Mapper, you know, things like that. How does it integrate into a modern transport system? And I'd say basically modern transport systems are connected. So.
Ruth.
So, for the feasibility, could we be looking at whether it's sort of like potentially economically viable to segregate a route? Because I know that lots of places might actually struggle to find the space to be able to segregate things. So could that be maybe a segregation that is combined with other active travel modes of transport rather than total segregation?
So yeah, it's a good question. So you don't necessarily have to, for example, build an entirely new route of asphalt. You could, for example, instead of rebuilding a railway line, so there were a lot of restoring a railway bids that went forward to government last year. A lot of them didn't get funded because there wasn't enough funding for new rail infrastructure. Could you use those routes as something? If there are unused or underutilized cycle lanes, could you use them? Potentially, but you want to basically make sure that you are still providing an active transport option there. It's not going to be right for every single local authority, but you know, we want to put the option out there for people to properly scrutinise the opportunity.
Richard. Just so the people online can hear.
Just to add to the point that because a space is public at some time doesn't mean to say it's always a public space. This is something that came out of the legal advice that we had, that for example, a pub car park would be a public space when the pub is open, but it could be a private space when it's closed. So what is segregated and what is not segregated might change with time during the day or during the week. So you might want to bear that in mind.
Cool. Okay, so we got 4 minutes, less than Tony's like, speed up, come on. This is not the only competition we're going to launch this year. We have a supply chain competition in the works. We're aiming for a September launch. That's going to be more focused on the elements of the technologies, the services and the capabilities that support CAM. So this is not your one and only opportunity. This is pushing us forward to prove out that CAM is a deployable capability that over a certain period of time will be able to be funded by itself and will not always require grants from government. And then in September, we're launching a bit more of a focus point, looking at the supply chain. What elements of the supply chain does the UK need to be able to deliver to support those successful things? I'm only saying that now because your bid in this should be standalone. You can't say, we want to win this money and we're going to be dependent on a project that wins money later in the supply chain. Your bid should stand alone for this, and your supply chain bid should stand alone. You can have some interaction, but you can't have dependencies between those two. Tony, we've got time for the Q&A a bit later as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, we've done the Q&A.
I'm going to let you press play to that so I don't break it.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Rachel can't be here with us today. She fell ill, but she's done a voiceover over the application process slides. So please pay attention to the screen, and there'll be an opportunity for some questions and answers after. But we might need to take those away and come back to you with some questions or some answers in some case. Right, let's see.
Hi, my name is Rachel Evans and I am the Portfolio Manager within the competitions team at Innovate UK. I'm going to run you through some of the process elements related to the 2 strands of the competition today. So to start off, we'll run through some of the eligibility criteria of the competition. So this competition does allow you to submit a previously submitted application. A previously submitted application is an application Innovate UK judges is not materially different from one you have submitted before, but it can be updated based on the assessor's feedback. Not a previously submitted application would be a brand new application, project or idea that you have not previously submitted into an Innovate UK competition, or a previously submitted or ineligible application which has been updated based on assessor feedback and is materially different from the application submitted before, and it fits with the new scope of this competition. So more specifically now, we'll run through some of the eligibility criteria relating to the commercialising connected and automated mobility deployment strand. So for this strand of the competition, you need to carry out all project work with in the UK, intend to exploit the results from or in the UK, and work with the Centre for Connected and Autonomous Vehicles, CCAV, to ensure compatibility with relevant current and future regulatory compliance. You must also be a collaborative project. You must have total project costs between 500,000 and 9 million. Your project must start by the 1st of March 2023 and end by the 31st of March 2025. So for industrial research projects, you could get funding for your eligible project costs of up to 70% if you're micro or small, 60% if you're medium, or 50% if you're large. For experimental development projects, which are nearer to market, you could get funding of up to 45% if you're micro or small, up to 35% if you're medium, or up to 25% if you're a large organisation. For a research organisation conducting fundamental research, you could get funding for your eligible project costs of up to 30%. And then we have the Zenzic levy. You must pay Zenzic for the services it provides, outlined in the supporting information section by the payment of a fee through the lead partner. The fee will be calculated as 3% of the total grant offered to the project. Academic partners are also required to pay this fee, and this is an absolute condition of the award for your grant. So now moving on to the mass transit strand of the competition. So for this strand of the competition, you must carry out all project work in the UK and intend to exploit the results from or in the UK. Work with Department for Transport and the Centre of Connected and Autonomous Vehicles to ensure compatibility with regulatory requirements, and you must be collaborative. You can have project costs of between 50,000 and 200,000, and you need to start by the 1st of January 2023 and end by 30th of November 2023. For this strand of the competition, for industrial feasibility studies, you could get funding for your eligible project costs of up to 70% if you're a micro or small organisation, up to 60% if you're a medium, and up to 50% if you're a large organisation. For research organisations conducting fundamental research, you could get funding for your eligible project costs of up to 30%. So a little bit more on further eligibility. So the types of organisations we fund Innovate UK as shown on the screen here. So for applying to this competition, the lead partner needs to be UK registered business of any size. We then have research organisations, so either university or one of these categories. And then we have public sector organisations and charities. The amount of funding you can receive will depend on which of these categories you fit into. And further information is available on our website in our general guidance. On the 1st of January 2021, the UK left the EU and is no longer subject to EU laws on state aid. On this slide, you can see the link to the guidance issued by BEIS. If you are unsure of whether you are eligible to receive a subsidy, please seek legal advice. Further information is available on our website, and you can also contact our customer support services team if you have any questions. A going concern is a business is assumed will meet its financial obligations when they fall due. It functions without the threat of liquidation for the foreseeable future. You should make sure that your organisation is eligible before you submit an application. If you are unsure of whether you are eligible to receive subsidy control, please seek independent legal advice. Further information is available on our website, and you can also contact our support team if you have any questions. If you're an applicant who is conducting activities that will affect trade of goods or electricity between Northern Ireland and the EU as envisaged by Article 10 of the Northern Ireland Protocol, then you must apply under the European Commission state aid rules. In order to be eligible to receive state aid, you must pass the undertaking's difficulty test. This only applies to limited liability companies that are more than 3 years old. If you have a parent company, the test can be performed on your parent or holding company. If you're successful in the competition, we will apply this test as part of our viability checks. And if you are unsure of whether you are eligible to receive state aid, please seek legal advice. Further information is available on our website, and you can also contact our customer support services team if you have any questions. Please remember that at least 70% of the total eligible project costs must be incurred by a business. If you have an academic or RTO in your consortium, the maximum level of project cost is 30%. If there is more than one, they would share the 30% between them. Research organisations are not able to lead in this competition, but may partner in as many applications as they wish. More detail will be covered later in the deck. So there must be evidence of a genuine collaboration. You'll need to explain in your application how all parties will contribute to the project and benefit from the collaboration. A business can be involved in up to 3 applications, but will only lead on one application. If you wish to be involved in more than 3 applications, you must contact Innovate UK before you apply. If you have an outstanding final claim or independent accountant report on a live Innovate UK project, you will not be eligible to apply for the grant funding in this competition. And that's as a lead or a partner organisation. If you applied to a previous competition as the lead or sole company and were awarded funding by Innovate UK, but did not make substantial effort to exploit that award, we will award no more funding to you. If you applied to a previous competition as a lead or sole company and failed to comply with grant terms and conditions, you will not be eligible to apply for any more funding. These are the key dates to bear in mind for this competition. It's important to note that the submission deadline is at 11 AM on the dot. IFS will automatically close, and so at 11:01 applications cannot be submitted. We strongly advise and recommend that you submit your application as early as possible, as traffic will be high on deadline day. Please contact the customer support in advance of the deadline if you experience any difficulties with submitting your application, so that we can assist you in good time. So now I'm going to run you through a little bit about the Innovation Funding Service. So when you click apply on the competition webpage, you'll be directed here. Use the keyword search to find the competition you are interested in. Click the title and it opens the competition. Click on the competition to see a tab view of the eligibility criteria, scope, key dates and information on how to apply. When you are happy to apply, simply click Start New Application. To apply for a competition, the lead applicant will need to create an account. If you have applied for a previous competition on IFS, you could simply sign in. If you have forgotten your password, please click the Need Help Signing In or Creating an Account drop-down. This will bring up a Forgotten Your Password link. You can use Companies House Lookup to search for your organisation to save typing in the name and address. If you are not on Companies House, you can manually enter your information. And we advise that research organisations and academics manually enter your information so that you are not listed as a business on IFS and ensure you receive the correct funding. So this is an overview of the first section. So this covers all of your project details. So you'll first fill in the application details. So please make sure your research category is correct, as this is used to calculate your grant value, and the lead applicant needs to complete this. Subsidy basis. So this is where you can list where the partners in your project are based. This is not applicable for any academic partners, but all other partners in your consortium will need to answer this question. The EDI survey must be completed and a comment left to let us know that you have done it. In the project summary section, we need you to highlight the need or challenge, approach and innovation, and outcomes, key to setting the scene for the assessors as it gives them an overview of your vision. The public description will be published if your project is successful, so please be aware of confidentiality here. And then finally, we'll ask you to fill in the scope. So it's important that your project is within scope to receive funding. Please use this field to justify how your project fits with the scope for assessors. If you're unsure as to whether or not the application is in scope for this competition, please do contact customer support. So section 2 covers the questions, and they go through 3 key areas, which we'll run through in a bit more detail. All of the information regarding these questions can be found under the How to Apply tab. Please note, very detailed guidance is associated with each question on IFS, and as you can see, there are options for optional appendices, mandatory appendices, and some that don't have any at all. So to run you through the application finances, your business does not have to be UK registered with Companies House when you apply, but it must be registered before you can receive funding. You are unable to claim funding if you're an overseas organisation, so your company number begins with FC. Your organisation is set up as a branch, so your company number begins with BR. You're a collaboration with no formal structure of ownership or control, so your company number begins with MO. Or you're a Crown dependency, so your company is based in Jersey, your company is based in Guernsey, or your company is based in the Isle of Man. You are also unable to claim funding if your company is based in any of the British overseas territories listed on the screen here. So then you get to inputting your finances on IFS. So the first section you'll fill in is your labour costs. So we need you to enter the role within the project, gross annual salary, the number of staff, and the days to be spent on the project. It will then automatically calculate the total costs. If you have multiple people in the same role on the same average salary, enter this in the role within project field. So we define overheads as additional costs and operational expenses incurred directly as a result of the project. These could include additional costs for administrative staff, general IT, rent, and utilities. You can select from the 3 options you can see on the screen as to how you would like your overheads calculated. So for material costs, we need you to enter and describe what materials you intend to use on the project, the volume and the cost. The materials listed must be project specific. Please provide as much information as possible. For example, just consumables at 50,000 doesn't provide enough detail, and you will be required to provide more information from the project finance team if you are successful. For capital equipment usage, you'll need to describe how you're using the equipment, whether it is new or is existing, the new purchase cost, how long you are depreciating it over, and the residual value at the end. These calculations will need to be in line with your accounting practices. For subcontractors, if this cost is going to be significant, then you will need to justify who, why, and what you need them for, both here and in your application. It's important that you justify the use of subcontractors within your application, especially those that are non-UK based, as the assessors do not see this level of financial detail, they only see the total cost. If you have a parent or sister company, please ensure you list at cost and do not include profit. Here you would include things such as essential meetings that need to happen during the project. You cannot include any sales and marketing activity that is ineligible. Travel costs must be economy travel only. You should be prepared to provide a breakdown of these costs if the project finance reviewer asks for more detail. For example, they might require you to split up a trip into its subsistence, accommodation, and travel. And then finally, you'll be able to fill in your other cost section. So please check the finance guide for what costs can be included here. If you're unsure, please do not hesitate to contact customer support. Any other costs which don't fit the previous categories, for example, training directly attributable to the project, license and new technologies, and patent filing costs for new IP. So as previously mentioned, the level of funding awarded will depend upon the type of organisation and the type of research being undertaken in the project. IFS will calculate your grant percentage based on your answers inputted. As a reminder, the amount of funding you are eligible to receive is dependent upon your organisation type. The table shows the grant percentage rates. If you're applying under the mass transit strand of the competition, you will be looking at the feasibility rates. Our deployment strand covers both the industrial research and experimental development. So academic partners in your consortium will need to complete a JES form, which they should be familiar with. The form validates costs for us. Innovate UK don't have access to the JES system to extract information ourselves, which is why this needs to be sent to us. When they've completed their JES form, academics will need to include their unique reference number on IFS and input their figures. Please ensure the figures you provide are identical. Form must be with council status and uploaded to IFS as a PDF. So submitting your application. This is a summary of the project costs available to all organisations in the project. You will not be able to see any more detailed breakdowns of anyone else's costs. For collaborative applications, IFS will highlight to the lead applicant any partners who have outstanding project finances to complete. All finances must be included in the application before the lead applicant can submit. If you find you need to edit your application once it's been submitted, then it is possible. First, you need to reopen your application on your IFS dashboard. You will see the option to reopen as shown on the slide. The option to reopen is also visible on your application status page. And once reopened, you can make changes to your application. But when you finish, please remember to resubmit. Just click on the green review and submit button, review your application once more, and then click the final submit button. So we are able to track site usage and submission uploads. This table shows the number of applicants submitting their proposals each hour leading up to the 11 AM deadline. As you can see, the majority of applicants leave it to the final hours, and we strongly recommend submitting your application early in good time to avoid any last-minute technical issues. So a small amount on the assessment. So we have interviews for our deployment strand of the competition only. So if you are invited to progress to interview, you can bring up to 9 people to attend. You will have 30 minutes to present a maximum of 30 PowerPoint slides. And then there is up to 45 minutes of Q&A session led by members of the panel. The response to feedback, presentations and presenters' names have to be provided ahead of the interview, but this timeline will be shared with you if successful. So if you are unsuccessful in a competition, you can use the feedback from the assessors to develop your idea and apply it into another competition that allows previously submitted applications. If you're successful in this competition, you will be assigned a delivery executive who will guide you through the project setup process. You will have 30 days to complete the project team details, and then you will have 90 days to complete project setup. So all communications will be through IFS from this point onwards. And the lead applicant must provide collaboration agreements and exploitation plans if applicable. All grants are paid quarterly in arrears and are only paid following quarterly reporting and necessary audits. Claims can only be made for costs incurred and be paid between the project start and end dates, and monitoring of the project includes a visit from the appointed monitoring officers. On the screen here, you can see some key contact details for our customer support team, who are open Monday to Friday 9 till 5, our Innovate UK Edge team, our Innovate UK KTN team, and also our Innovate UK website. Thank you very much.
That was the easiest pitch for me. Right. I don't know if we can take many questions now, but there's some details there that you can refer to and send your questions to Rachel. We might be able to take some general questions. Maybe Richard can answer some questions.
I'll have a try, but if not, then I'll send you just the score instead. But yeah, if there's any questions, I'll
I'm sure that Mark will explain that a bit later about the Zenzic contribution. Sorry, the question was about the Zenzic 3% and when it was payable. So I'll let Mark answer that when he's doing his presentation. Yes.
Yeah, so the industrial research and experimental development, could that be broken down by a particular partner, or does it have to be for the whole project?
It's for the project. Sorry, yeah, the question was whether industrial research and experimental development is per partner or across the entire project, and it's across the entire project. The project is either one or the other.
But the grant rates are up to. So you don't, if you're a medium, you can claim up to 60%. You don't have to claim 60%. Your medium can come in and only wants 30%.
Sorry, Peter.
Actually, just quickly, non-PAYE staff that are sole traders or IL-35, are they considered subcontractors?
I don't know. The question was non-PAYE employees, whether they're treated as being subcontractors. I don't know the answer to that. I will ask. Yeah.
Okay.
No others?
There's no other questions?
Okay.
If there's no other questions either, or if you remember, just email me or reach out to the Innovate UK team and we'll try and address them that way. But we're actually on time and we've got time now for a coffee break. So yes, got about 15 minutes, I think. So I'll give you a 5-minute warning before it's gone. Thank you. their support to the CAM innovators here today. So, Mark, please.
Excellent. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, everybody. Follow my thanks from everybody else. Great to see so many people in the room here today and online. You've heard Zenzic mentioned a couple of times. I guess I'm in the envious position that David and Michael are here giving away a load of money, and so far it sounds like we're here with a levy. So what I want to try and do is just sort of share a little bit about who we are, what we do, how we can support you, and conversation we're going to want to have with you guys. And then obviously, we can pick up any questions if I don't take too long doing this part. We can look at that. What I wanted to do actually is just a mild retrospective of kind of where we've come from in the last few years. And particularly with this focus on why working together and collaboration is critical, which we've heard a few times before. So way back when, I think in 2015 or thereabouts, UK government put a call out to industry to say what's going on in this CAM space, what can it work, and what the opportunities, and industry came together with, and we've heard about the 3 pillars that Michael spoke about earlier. One of the key things that was part of that was what we now call CAM Testbed UK, which has been mentioned already, but the idea being that bringing together a collective of people working towards an opportunity actually is a great strength of the UK, and this is something that we've really seen over the last 5 or 6 years as the programme that CCAV have been leading has developed. So just on the slide there, really, just some examples of really where this collaboration, this ethos of working together and coming together has actually proven to be really beneficial over the last 5 years. So the wheel there, and I was at a meeting the other day when someone said, you can't read the words, don't look at the words, look at the colours, which probably applies to that sort of circular wheel there. But there's been, over the last 5 years, a huge amount of great things that have been happening in this space in the UK, a huge capability spread across sort of 90 projects, and I think sort of 200 organisations and things been involved in those projects. And across the UK, there's a whole load of amazing capability. We've seen projects like CAM Testbed UK come together with their 6 testbeds, really working together and kind of delivering this unique proposition of the UK being a home for testing and capability, working together there to make the UK a sort of destination for R&D. We've seen sort of projects around investing in scale-ups and SMEs, helping them accelerate their way through market and get towards really seizing a commercial opportunity. And we're seeing the testbeds play a role in that. We've seen projects around taking new technologies around simulation and virtual validation, organisations coming together, working together to try and solve common problems find common solutions to common problems and coming together to really do that. And it's something that, as we've been working and talking to people around the globe about what's happening in the UK, what's happening in CAM, the thing that continually impresses is the ability for the UK to collaborate and work together. We delivered a roadmap to 2030, which Michael spoke of earlier, setting a common vision about where do we aspire to be as a community here in the UK, what our aspirations are for the deployment of CAM services, starting by 2025 and scaling up out to 2030. And lots of organisations working in this space. Many of you here will have been engaged in a number of these programmes. So in the UK, this concept of how we work together and how we foster a culture of collaboration has been absolutely critical. And Zenzic as an organisation, some of you will know us already. Many of you we've had conversations with sort of certainly over the last few months in the lead up to this event. Historically, our focus and our foundation is around supporting CAM Testbed UK. So this collection of testbeds, we were set up specifically to support that and support those projects and those competitions, come through this process, land, deliver the projects, and ultimately exploit the capabilities which are built off the back of those investments. Today, we're sitting here at the start of a new programme, a new 3-year programme that CCAV have laid out, and we're looking at how we continue to support the CAM ecosystem in this space. So as an organisation, we were set up originally in our initial phase to be part government and part industry funded. We sit there in between this kind of Venn diagram of industry, academia and government.
Our role is not to compete or to do anything that each of those individual organisations do, but support a communication between them, should support a collaboration where each of those parties can understand the requirements of the others and ultimately to deliver more effectively together. So our mission really is just about bringing people together. Our mission is about ensuring that everybody in this room has an opportunity to be successful and that can do that through collaboration and through partnerships. So as we look forwards to what we'll be doing and also sharing some of the things that we're doing in this space, we kind of hold ourselves to three core pillars of the things that we do. So we have a pillar around insights, which is essentially about an understanding. So if we look at, this is more broadly the activities that we support into the CAM ecosystem. We have the roadmap, which I've spoken about, which Francis, my colleague there, leads up that work, which will be to refresh that and really ensure that we have a good, strong, continuous collective vision of where the future's going. We set that out sort of 3 or 4 years ago. We established a vision, and what we want to do is ensure that is still relevant and up to date. We have strategic research into supply chains and opportunities, understanding what that looks like in the UK, mapping out what the supply chain is in this emerging new world, seeing how that fits in with the global opportunities, in part to ensure that in the UK we understand where the opportunities are and that we can focus in on those. We have a strong belief that in the UK we need to be smart about where we invest. We need to be smart about the areas in which we can be successful on a global stage. And that strategic research that we're doing is underpinning the evidence base for that. We've got innovation programs I spoke about around CAM scale-up and interoperability projects, driving forwards the capabilities of CAM Testbed UK, which is a really strong foundation of everything that we're doing here. I'll come back to the deployment and supply chain support, which is really, I guess, what we're doing to support these competitions that have been announced today. We continue to work with CAM Testbed UK as a member of CAM Testbed UK to help support them. And what we're seeing is, and part of the strategy which was laid out way back in 2015 was at the foundation of being able to develop technology, at the foundation of being able to deploy these technologies into services which have an impact here in the UK, we need to be able to ensure that we can validate and test and develop the technologies and services robustly. So one of the things that we're encouraging people as we talk to them is to consider how do you do that in the projects that we're doing. CAM Testbed UK, and I suspect you'll hear from a few of them a bit later on, is the foundation of how you can do that and ensure what you're doing is robust and secure. And broadly, we're supporting the CAM community in looking at particular areas, and our focus is how do we draw together these different verticals? How do we draw together the operators of logistics services with the people developing the technology? One has a problem, one has a solution, but do they talk the same language? Is it easy to access into different verticals? And what we're doing is establishing forums and abilities for organisations to cut across the traditional silos and the walls that have existed between traditional sectors and broker a conversation, but more than just a conversation, getting into how we can, what I would say is do a real thing. How can we actually take a step forwards towards this future that we have? So really what I wanted just to start to lay out is so what? So what does that mean to you guys here who've sat through and understanding we've got an opportunity for some funding, we've got some ambitious timeframes and some ambitious use cases and on your own ambitious plans of how you might want to move forwards. How can we as an organisation help you in that? So what I wanted just, and there's sort of two pictures, this slide and the next slide, really to start to illustrate where we see we have the ability to support you. So we recognise that this is a process that needs to be gone through, which started, maybe it starts today for some of you, or it started certainly in the last few months of understanding what this competition is, getting into a position where you can submit a really strong, compelling bid to give you the best opportunity to secure the funding, delivering that project, delivering that successfully, hitting all of the things that you said you would, hitting the spirit of the competition and things that we really want to see here in the UK. But also beyond that, how do we exploit that? How do we ensure that at the end of a project, we don't sort of, pat ourselves on the back, walk off into the sunset and think jobs are good and job well done, and we never talk to each other again. What we want to see And as we move forwards beyond, R&D into this commercialisation phase, into deployment, we want to see projects and services which can be sustainable, which can be commercialised. So across this sort of 3 phases of how we see pushing forwards towards commercialisation, and understanding what it is that we do at Zenzic and what we can do and what we can't do and what we're not best placed to do, there's some things that we want to be able to offer to consortia that are forming, to offer to these projects that are there. So the first is that we want to sort of be available to you and be able to support you throughout that full life cycle. So from today, from this point forwards, we would encourage you to reach out to us if you've got questions, you've got challenges, you've got things you need support for. That's what we're there for, to support you into that, all the way through the delivery, all the way through to how you might exploit that, how we can support you promoting the projects and the services ultimately that you're delivering. We want to be a champion and an advocate. We sit in a number of forums. We work very closely with CCAV and other government departments. We sit on the Automotive Council. We sit in a number of places where we want to be able to champion and advocate these projects and these deployments that are coming forwards. In the same way that we've been championing and advocating CAM Testbed UK as a foundation of what we're doing here in the UK, we want to do that for these competitions and these projects as well. Our insights, that knowledge about what's really going on in the supply chain, the understanding of what the opportunity is, the alignment of our vision of the roadmap and the work we're doing with other international partners in understanding their roadmaps and what their aspirations are. We want to be able to bring that intelligence, the market intelligence, that strategic insight into your bid development, into your project delivery phases, so that we can start helping you understand the bigger picture, the wider picture, and understand really where your challenges are. Also, a key part of what we do, and a testament to the roadmap work that we've done before, we have our CAM creators, our CAM innovators, access to sort of over 200 organisations who are active in this space. We want to be able to help you reach into that ecosystem. If there are partners you need to find, if there are conversations that you want to have, brains that you want to pick, we want to help you engage in that ecosystem. Many of you might know many of the people. Maybe you don't know any of the people. Maybe you know some of the people. But we are there to sort of help you engage in those conversations that helps you support that delivery. And then as we look through delivery and into the exploitation and really looking at how do we make sure that what we do today and what we do up to the 31st of March 2025, when the money finishes and the projects formally need to end, how do we ensure that we continue beyond there? We want to help understanding what does it take to exploit that service. You're testing a service, you're testing a concept as part of these competitions. How do we look for adjacencies? How do we look for new opportunities to extend that? How do we help you find and access new markets? We want to use the networks that we have and the understanding we have of how you apply CAM in those areas to do that. We want to promote and amplify the work that you're doing with the work we do very closely with DIT, the delegations which we host, the people and the events that we deliver. We want to use these projects as real flagship examples of how the UK is leading the way. How UK organisations and your project is really one to be that should be paid attention to, and we want to represent you in the forums that we work through and that we exist in around all of our work, both in the UK but also internationally. Now that's a lot there. Maybe that's a lot of wishy-washy words. I don't know how you hear what I'm saying. I think what we do recognise, though, is it's difficult to stand here and say, here's a list of all the things that we're going to do. Maybe particularly difficult to say, here's a list of all the things we're going to do for the money you've got to pay us. I don't want to dwell on the money, but I recognise that, that is a reality. What we recognise is if you're a small SME, what you need from us and what we can give you will be different if you're a large multinational corporate, will be different if you're a public sector organisations. So we hope that these categories of areas where we feel we can add value and where we know we can add value, we want to have a conversation with you and an understanding as you emerge through this process, as you form your consortium, if you understand really what you want to deliver, to have a conversation about where can we genuinely add you benefit. We are here for that purpose. I can't second guess exactly what you're thinking, exactly what your projects are there to deliver. But what we do know is we can bring a lot to it. So we want to have a conversation with you about that. So I would encourage you as you go through this process, do reach out to us, do get in contact with us. I know many of you already are. And we can have a conversation about how do we best give you value? How do we best improve these projects to deliver maximum impact? Now, I'm also conscious that there's lots of sort of people in the room and other organisations, and we've heard a lot today. I think what I would say is we're not a project partner, so we don't partner in these projects. We don't bid for funding into them. We're not a partner you to account for in a formal sense on the project. We don't write your bid. We don't assess your bid. That's the work of Innovate UK and CCAV. As a consequence, as we don't assess that, we can perhaps support you in different ways, than Innovate and CCAV can. Specific questions around the scope and the requirements, you go through the process of customer support through Innovate. But we can be there as maybe a friendly ear for you to test ideas with, because we're not part of that assessment process, so we don't need to go through that same sort of level of robust transparency. We're not there to monitor the projects. We have project MOs as part of the Innovate process. That's not what we're doing. We don't get involved in the finance of those projects. But what I like to think is that we are there to offer a critical ear, to offer support, to offer challenge, and to offer support in how you might exploit your project and engage into this ecosystem. So what we do is different than what Tony will do in KTN. It's different with what Innovate and CCAV do. But that's sort of, that's who we are. That's our offer to you. I suggest you take us up on that offer. Come and talk to us, challenge us. If there are things that you want, then we are more than happy to engage in that conversation, and really delighted to sort of work with you going forwards. I think I'm over time. Tony's tapping his watch at me. So I don't know if we've got time for questions now or later in the break or afterwards. Yep. So any questions, do come and find me later. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
Afternoon. Brynhawn da. Welcome to Wales. That's where I was from there. Okay, so I'm representing Innovate UK Edge this afternoon. My name is Phil Jones. I am a innovation and growth specialist for Innovate UK Edge. Innovate UK Edge is a service delivered by UKRI Innovate, and this team and happy family of all these services, KTN, etc. They all work together seamlessly, allegedly. But we do actually all add different values. So we're here to help you and your teams as you grow your consortiums. Any of your parts of your team or your consortium who have got less than 500 staff, a UK-based company, have potential eligibility for UK Innovation Edge support. What do we do? Who are we? So the Edge programme, the Edge project, is delivered across the UK by a consortium of companies, and it covers the whole of the UK. So wherever you are, you can get support. I happen to be here today from BIC Innovation, and we deliver the whole of the Innovate UK Edge programme across the whole of Wales. We're here to help. That's what our primary purpose is, help you with your commercialisation, innovation, and we have two umbrellas of activity. One is innovation and supporting you in your innovation, and the other is supporting you in your internationalisation. So those are the true drivers and what we are measured on to support you and your teams and your businesses. We come into a business and we look at what your particular need is. We only look at your particular need. We don't come with a generic response. We come in, we understand what your need is, and we give you bespoke support to deliver what you're trying to achieve. So this is a UK-wide service, and it drives towards growth and scaling and internationalisation. That's what we're all about. We've got lots and lots of examples of companies who we've helped, thousands and thousands of them. And the joy of these companies, they start with your one-man band, all the way up to companies who are scaling rapidly. We've recently moved a company from London to a site just around the corner here, and they are going to be growing rapidly, and they've been through our scale-up programme. Everything we do would supplement and assist with what we just heard from our colleague there, sorry, forgot your name. But it all interacts. It supports each other. We help with the grant aid programs as well, help with people finding the right alignment, finding the right associations, finding the right collaborators, moving them forward. These 3 companies are all companies based in Wales, described here. 2 of them I helped find their funding from Innovate UK funding sources. It's all about being a champion for a company. We have all these structures which are available. We run the Pitch Fest program that will be changing slightly, helping people acknowledge, understand how to put forward their ideas, challenge them to put forward what is the problem that they're addressing, what is their solution properly addressed, properly presented, what do they need, what is their out from their business, what funding do they need and when. We go through all this type of system. Young innovators, fascinating program, wonderful people involved. We help them, we support them, we help them on their journey. These are all about journeys, as we saw earlier, the journey from seeing the opportunity all the way through applying for the opportunity to delivering the opportunity. All this infrastructure is here. Across the UK, the Innovate UK Edge consortium is there to deliver. Just get in touch with the people where you are regionally. You'll have contacts and things at the end. There isn't anything in particular that I'll say about what we'll do in this programme of activity. You come to us and you define with us your particular needs. We will go through your opportunities. We will address the challenges of you finding those, realising those opportunities, and we will put together with you a programme of support that is bespoke to your needs. The people we help talk nicely about us. You know, we do okay. We actually make a difference to people. And some of these companies grow extremely rapidly. We start off with general growth support. Then we get into high growth support, and we end up with our scale-up program, which is the top of our pyramid of support systems. And these companies, we hold their hand, we champion them, and we put together all the collaborations and the support that they need. And that is our approach. I'm Phil Jones. That's all our contact details. You can get in touch with me or any of my team anytime you want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Great, so we're on time, and we've now got actually, before I do, I wanted to raise this. This is not the only funding available for CAM innovators. There is still an opportunity to look into the Canada-UK net zero value chains, and there's an opportunity there to pitch for funding. If there's an opportunity to develop a project that works across Canada and the UK partnerships. So remember this, it will be on the slides, so please refer back to it and contact us if you want to find out more about this. Again, another great opportunity for all of us. Okay, so final slide, but we've got 20 companies, really interesting companies, that are put forward some pitches to do today. We've got 50 minutes, okay? So 2 minutes each means 40 minutes with transitions. We have to be efficient here. And in fairness for all, I would ask all of you guys to look at who your predecessor is and be ready. And I will be timekeeping the 2 minutes. And at 30 seconds, I will stand up and I will push you out if you're not walked up. Okay? So, I'd like to bring the first person there. So, Solihull, there you go. They've got an interesting project proposal.
I hope you're not saving the best till last, because it doesn't bode well if you are. Right, okay, I have got all the words there, but in the spirit of a picture painting 1,000 words and only having 2 minutes, over the past 18 months, we've been really working to understand as a council the application of autonomy. We've got HS2 coming, about here, by the end of the decade. and we already have Birmingham Airport. I won't keep going over and pointing. Birmingham Airport, National Exhibition Centre, the NEC, Birmingham Business Park, a big JLR plant, all within the same sort of 8 square miles. So we've got a really unique requirement for connectivity. So really, I'm here as part of this funding call, really, to ask for tech innovators to come and help us realise what could be a really significant showcase for autonomy in the UK. So we're working very closely with Transport for West Midlands within this. We're looking to wrap up all of our learning as a council over the last 18 months with a lot of the projects that Transport for West Midlands are in the midst of delivering to create something really special in probably the best connected area of the UK, especially when HS2 comes as well, 35 minutes from London. So that's it from me. Come and talk to me. Colin Maltby, find me on LinkedIn or just come and tap me on the shoulder.
There you go. There's the standard set. Ebbw, yeah, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Luciano Santos from Ebbw. I'm based in the UK, but I look after the European market for the motion e-mobility. And we're here to help with products, packages, or solutions. I hope you know Ebbw from the rail industry already, but we come with that expertise from marine and from industrial applications, but also now with this e-mobility hardware. So if you need support with products, motors, or electric motors, and how to specify them from a diesel to electric conversion, that's where we are, and we have local teams to support you as well. And that's it. That's less than 2 minutes.
Right.
Hi, I'm David Mark from AMO. We are an AI data company. We provide AI data into machine learning operations. We're the number one at what we do in Korea. I'm very heavily focused on R&D. We've recently opened a UK office, and I work from that office supporting the European organisation. We're looking to partner with people working on autonomous vehicles to provide them with the data they need, be that collection, curation, or just purely data labelling. The slides, I guess, will go around, so you can have a look at what we do, who we do it for. But if you'd like to speak to me, you'd like to connect with me, those are my details, and you can scan that and get my LinkedIn and join me there. Thank you.
Well, it feels like 30 seconds at the moment. My name's James Tillier. I'm the managing consultant at Transformotion. We're a road transport consultancy, and I come at it from a slightly different point of view because it feels very techy today to me. But we're very much about people development and the development specifically of truck and bus drivers with regard to CAV. And we've recently completed a project called Steer to Career. It was a European project that wound up last year. Feels like a long time ago. But actually, we focused on a real potential problem, and that is the labour market and the potential for a huge number of redundancies when CAV hits the roads. In terms of what we're looking at specifically, we addressed within this project the basic skills for handling current tech and making the transition for drivers from what they currently have, around about level 2, level 3, all the way through to fully autonomous vehicles. We focused in this project on providing training, so specifically for truck and bus drivers, and we looked at actually developing professional and social skills, because we also recognise there's a massive opportunity to recruit from outside of transport and logistics, particularly with the sort of skills that they will need in the future. We recommended to redeploy rather than look to hire fresh for companies, principally to save huge costs on recruitment and training. We involved drivers within this project, and that was quite crucial because obviously we need to reach drivers for them to understand the technology. And we mapped out the future job roles. A bit of a crystal ball exercise, but we sort of did it quite scientifically. And a lot of these points all indicate to the fact that the labour market is potentially at a crisis point, with 270,000 drivers, truck drivers in the UK and 100,000 bus drivers. The problem also will be that there will be a need for mixed driving conditions. So I'm going to wind it up, otherwise it'll become a speech. But if you want to know more, feel free to get in touch. My details, I guess, are somewhere. So, thanks.
Hi everybody, my name is Martin Beaumont. I'm from a company called Enotechnos, based in southwest London in Kingston. We develop wireless charging infrastructure, so the purpose of me being here is to kind of put our name out there, perhaps to work with you, maybe not as a consortium partner, but as a subcontractor on one of these projects. Many of you will be looking at developing electric vehicles or using an electric vehicle. Many of those are autonomous and so won't have a driver. And the obvious problem there with plug-in charging is you need someone to do it. So that's where wireless charging comes in, and that's what we're looking to develop. The geeky bit about wireless charging is it happens at 85 kilohertz. So you take your grid from 50 up to 85 kilohertz and you transmit it between a ground pad and a car pad. Difficulty is 85 kilohertz, you can't send that a long distance. So after about between 5 and 20 meters, you don't get out what you put in. With our cabling in our system, we can send that 85 kilohertz over unlimited distance. So we're developing a system that can send it about 100 meters to start with, which means we can centralize all of the power controls. Instead of doing a charger space topology, we can do one big backbone and provide wireless charging across depots, car parks, residential streets, etc. One of the big advantages of wireless is we can put grazing stations in so that your vehicle doesn't need to have all of the charge on board at the beginning, and you can have fewer batteries and lower capex for your vehicle because you can charge on the way around. Martin Beaumont, Enotechnos, you know how to get me.
For info. Okay, de-risk, Rav.
Okay, hi everyone, it's Rav Babra at De-Risk. We're a company based in London and Los Angeles, and we're developing software to test, train and validate AV stacks. We use edge cases, which are the rare, risky scenarios that happen, and we collect them from CCTV, insurance claims reports, accident reports, front-facing cameras, to name a few sources from all over the world, and we recreate those in the simulation domain, and we can then pressure test your autonomous vehicle stack and give you some confidence that that stack is safe. If you want to get in contact with me, I can't hide with my hairstyle, so please come and have a chat. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. My name is Jonathan Smith. I'm from WMG at Warwick University. All of our research has an industrial application, and everything we look to do, we look to have an industrial partner involved. We have an intelligent vehicles directorate there, a number of areas of which could be applicable to these calls. Graham Lee here is representing one part of that, and I'm here representing the V&V side. All of our research is focused on the verification and validation pipeline that you can see here. We're looking to improve safety and improve the way in which we understand safety, and we enrich the safety case all the way through the pipeline. From creating the scenarios themselves, what do we need to test, what's relevant data, how do we convert those scenarios into something that can be executed and used across a number of different stakeholders, and then executing those scenarios in the appropriate environment, all the way from virtual right the way through to real world. On the real world side, at WMG, we are leading a consortium of partners who've built the Midlands Future Mobility Testbed. A number of those partners are around the room here. This is around 200 miles of roads across the Midlands, some of which are instrumented with fixed infrastructure, some of which is dynamic infrastructure. A whole range of different sensors, monitoring, connectivity, coverage, as well as a whole range of assets and knowledge that we can use to deploy and make the application of these vehicles easier and smoother. So feel free to be in touch with myself or any of the other partners in the room who are part of this consortium to understand how we might be of benefit. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Amir Soltani and I'm the founder and managing director of CAN Engineering. So we are a very specialized company focusing on the simulation solutions for smart mobility, and what we did during the last 3 years was to design and develop the first interoperable distributed simulation environment across the CAM testbed UK, supported by Zenzic and the whole CAM testbed, including UTAC, Myra, and other testbeds. We are very specialized in the design of the interface and the integrated simulation environment to bring the real-life data from the intelligent transport system and other real source, for example, the XIL, hill rigs, etc., to the simulation environment to bring a fully integrated and customized solution for the design and development of connected autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, and smart mobility as a general. If you have any project or any question or we can help, just reach out and I'm happy to talk further. Thank you.
Hi there, I'm Mark Preston from StreetDrone. We're an autonomous vehicle company based in Oxford. The first part of the project that we're interested in, this is the truck you'll see on social media and stuff that's running at Nissan Sunderland's plant at the moment. We're in logistics, so we're focusing on what we're calling first mile. So this is taking deliveries from one part of Nissan to another part of Nissan, and you can read all about that on our website. So you can imagine we're looking to commercialize this to the next level. It's currently got a safety driver. It will need to go to level 4. There's a lot of aspects that we have to work on. So that's our first project, which would be, we think, probably focused on the private land, which it is within the Nissan plant. That would be our proposal for the next projects. And then the other area that we're looking at, you may know also from the public domain, that one of our investors is Wilco, the hardware, the high street retailer. This is our Pixie concept, which is the last mile delivery. Again, low speed, but in very controlled environments. And this would be the other aspect we're looking at as commercialization. So I think you'll get all of our details from this. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a special good afternoon to all our customers. I'm Peter Stoker, Chief Engineer for Connected and Automated Mobility at UTAC, formerly known as Millbrook. I answer to both names as well as you. So essentially, we, in our partnership with the UK AEA, we are the UK's controlled urban CAV and also the 5G transport testbed, part funded by CCAV and also by DCMS for the 5G part, made out of a whole consortium of different folks you can see on screen there. Essentially, we offer test services to the CAV industry. We have new test facilities, we have improved physical infrastructure, a whole suite of simulation, and V2X and 5G standalone. What's innovative? It's a clear path towards on-road through ourselves as controlled, through race column as semi-controlled, out to the public environment. We're open to everybody. We're linked to all the other UK testbeds through various projects and through the steering group and Zenzic. And importantly, we're not a threat to your IP. We're independent, we're impartial, so you can bring your IP to us and it'll leave intact. We offer development trials, tests and demonstrations on vehicles, components and systems. 80 kilometres of tracks, 900 acres or 346 hectares combined between us, and lots of different scenarios and road setups. We look after startups, SMEs, OEMs and consortia, on and off-road testing, static or dynamic, and a whole range of different scenarios and environments. So, you know where we are, you know where I am, come and find me afterwards. Thanks a lot.
Hello everyone, I'm Ezralyn from Navia. So Navia, we are a French autonomous shuttle and tractor provider. In this competition, we're able to support you in the use cases for passenger services with our ready deploy autonomous shuttles, both in terms of vehicle availability and also homologation requirements. We also are able to provide a turnkey solution for remote supervision of a fleet of shuttles, on-demand features, working with different FMS companies, and we also have the technical expertise for the safety case report. In terms of logistics service, we also have an autonomous tractor. Current use case that we have is, for example, carrying autonomous supplies, automotive supplies to the production line or within the airport itself between the baggage sorting area and then the aircraft. So currently in the UK we have 3 active operations ongoing. And also for logistics service, it's mainly in France at the moment. One is in a major OEM factory, and the second one is in an airport. So we're here to support you if there's if you have any requirements in the autonomous shuttles or autonomous tractor requirements. Yeah. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Saber Fallo, and I'm Director of the Connected Autonomous Vehicles Lab, CAV Lab at the University of Surrey. At CAV Lab, we are working on the AI solutions for the autonomy, especially the trusted AI solutions. We are working on the developing AI techniques that can be trusted by design and after design. So what we are doing here, we are trying to understand the human values from the different perspective, from the legality, from the comfort, from the safety, and include those values inside the decision-making of autonomous driving. And we are also working on the verification and validation of AI-driven functionality for the highly automated vehicles. Everybody knows that verification and validation of these technologies is very difficult and is not supported by current standards like the ISO 26262, and we need to come up with the innovative solutions to verify and validate these technologies, especially AI-driven technologies. So if you are interested in these areas in terms of the design of the trusted AI or verification and validation of the AI-driven functionalities, please feel free to come to me to discuss it. Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm John McNichol. I'm standing in for Rob Potter from Beam Connectivity. Beam Connectivity offer a super fast and super resilient telematics connected vehicle solution. So looking to partner with people in these projects to collect data, transmit data, and all those good things. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Andy Chappell from Consignia. I don't think I can beat that one for speed. Okay. So very quickly, Consignia probably the world's biggest V2X dedicated company, 150 people dedicated to V2X technology, 10 years experience, over 2,000 RSUs deployed, 28 plus active deployments of V2X. So we can bring the connective part of connected vehicles to you. Number of different use cases, everything from the famous glosa mentioned before to collision warnings, signal prioritization, everything to do with V2X we can bring. We've got experience, we've got RSU products, roadside units, onboard units, MISRA compliant V2X stacks for in-vehicles, and the software to control and manage all devices going round. And we can also deliver standard compliant V2X over the mobile cellular network using people like Vodafone. So if we can help you, please get in contact. My contact details are on the slide. Okay.
Hi, I'm Richard Barrington. I'm here representing Sunderland and the BAI joint venture. We're looking to actually build a consortia around passenger services within the UK's leading smart city. We also have one of the largest regeneration projects in the country, which obviously has no transport infrastructure to it at the moment. We also have a full private 5G network across the whole of that area. So we're looking for a couple of partners to work with us, some who can provide autonomous passenger vehicles, as well as some autonomous software to come and join the consortia. We've also got BAI, who run mass transit systems around the world. So we think we've got all of the pieces of the jigsaw that you heard earlier, just missing a couple of partners around vehicles and the autonomous software. Thank you.
Hello, for those of you who've not worked with us before, I'm from Connected Places Catapult, joined my colleague Alan Nettleton today. We are a neutral organisation set up originally by the UK government to support companies to develop, implement and commercialise innovative technologies in the transport or places sector. In terms of capabilities, there's a long list on the slide. Picking out a couple we've used recently, so our systems engineering in V&V, we did some work with CCAV around safety requirements, how they're defined and measured for automated vehicles. In a slightly different note, we've also done some work on a different project to go from a technical specification, looking at how you can use supply-side modelling and geospatial data to look at potential market scale-up. So quite a range of capabilities. Please feel free to come and ask us about any of those afterwards. I've also put a list of projects on for anyone who's interested in reading about them. Main thing to emphasise there is we've probably worked with all types of organisations, from academia to central and local government to SMEs and large businesses. If you want to speak to us, details are on the slide, or please come and find us afterwards. Thanks.
Trip as I come up. Got a picture with me talking and being animated. Hi, I'm Tom Robinson. I'm the CTO of KTNUK. So we safely and sustainably automate the way that people and goods move, and we do that in industrial, commercial and smart city environments. We're building explainable self-driving technology and mobility platforms to accelerate the adoption of autonomous connected electric shared fleets that lead to the safer, cleaner and greener sustainable future. We have all the elements necessary, someone should have said press down, we have all the elements necessary to integrate self-driving services into the wider transport networks. This includes the self-driving, journey management and booking systems that enable both passenger and logistics services. And it's supported by our remote monitoring and teleoperation system that helps to handle complex edge cases when required. We're aiming to provide our full product suite to enable extended trials of self-driving services, both for passenger and or delivery services. And that's with the passenger services being offered with our own mass solution. In our 6 years, we've developed extensive skills through the completion of 5 CAM trials. We have an established team who continue to develop, integrate and test our systems. That's a growing team. We have vacancies. And that's being supported by our hardened trial, safety and project managers. And if you've done any trials, you know what I mean by hardened. Thank you.
Am I going to stand up here and smile at you as well? No. Okay, so Vodafone, Bob Banks from Group Research and Development. So what I'm up here to inform you about is Vodafone have launched a sort of semi-commercial platform to handle ETSI standardised ITS messages. So we can take those messages all the way from any user or infrastructure type on the road, all the way through our platform and back to the likes of road operators or car OEMs or whatever. So on one of these slides, there's information about the press announcement around that, so you can have a look at that. So as this slide shows, everything from what's on the street, that's vulnerable road users, cars, you name it, traffic lights, ITS messages standardised by ETSI, brought up through this STEP platform. We've done this in conjunction with the likes of Consignia and Nokia, all the way up to the likes of road operators. So road operators can send ETSI standardised messages down to road users can send ETSI standardised messages up. It's all based around 5G technology in terms of edge compute. So there's a platform and a capability there for third-party applications to be hosted on that platform and to do data analysis in real time of all that real-time data that's coming up from the road users. Final slide. The way we're implementing this at the moment, we've developed an SDK, so we can put that into both Apple and Android handsets. We can potentially put it into existing vehicles, subject to obviously the integration aspects associated with that. And obviously, in the future, we expect vehicles to be coming off the production line with ETSI standardised ITS messages built in. As well as having this covering the whole of the UK, we also have it deployed at Hariba Myra and at UTAC Millbrook. And also, final point, although this is a Vodafone platform, it doesn't require Vodafone connectivity. So it doesn't need a Vodafone SIM, but it can connect into this service platform. So I don't think you're necessarily tied into using Vodafone SIMs. It's a Vodafone service, but it's actually normally sitting on top of the connectivity. Contact me if you're interested. Slides will give you more information. Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we are well in time, which is a perfect opportunity now to go and meet all these companies, talk amongst ourselves, and all it remains for me to say thank you. Thank you for coming here, and thank you for the people on the live stream. Thank you for the presenters. And yeah, just as I said, we said it before, Zenzic, ourselves, Innovate UK Exit here to help you guys. Yep. So get in touch and see how we can make this work for the future. Thank you all.